That is right. Here we go. Every single Monday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. Help a Teacher Facebook Live. And I got to tell you, man, I was a little worried about this one simply because we had a natural disaster in Houston, Texas, which is called snow. we don't get that. We don't get snow here often in Houston. And so when we get like an inch of snow, you would think that I don't mean the aliens are coming, and so it is. But what the challenge is has been the power. There's just a huge drain on the power grid, and the Wi-Fi has been in and out. But it's rocking, man. We have live Wi-Fi, and I'm so pumped for tonight, man. Compton versus everybody. That's what I'm talking about. We have Principal Rahh on tonight, and I'm just a fan. Like I'm a fan. I respect his work as an educator, but more than that, I'm just as a bystander and just watching him do his thing in terms of leadership with this generation and this culture of kids, and just doing it in a new way. And you know what I've always said, if you want to make a difference, man, you've got to be different, and that's scalable. Like if you want to make a little bit of a difference, all you got to do is be a little bit different. But if you want to make a monumental difference in the lives of kids and teachers in schools, you've got to be monumentally different. And this dude is definitely monumentally different, and I can't wait for you guys to learn what I know about him. And we'll talk about him and his journey to where he is now. He's got a book coming out, and he's got the Revolutionary Educator Conference happening. And I'm excited, man. Principal Rahh, all the way from sunny California. How are you, brother?
Hey man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Let me tell you something, dude. You got so much going on. Like I don't even. I'm nervous for you. Like you're gonna miss something.
Man, it's been crazy, but you know, trying to make an impact, trying to revolutionize the educational experience, man. Like my father said, you work now and you can rest later.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. And you're definitely working. Anytime you've got to pick your picture on a bus driving around LA, you're working.
Yeah, man, that came about in such a surreal experience, man, to have your picture on a bus.
So
And
so
going
let- so let me set that up because there's a lot of folks don't know, and so there's a picture of you that is like famous now, where it's you standing in front of a bus, and there's this good looking guy on a picture on the bus talking about having an impact on kids. It's like, wait a minute, that's the guy.
yeah.
You're the guy on the bus. So give us a background of how you ended up on a bus.
So, for those who don't know me, I'm Amen Rahh, founder and principal, and my work was rooted in restorative practices, right? So, I became a certified practitioner in restorative practices. I helped train at that moment principals how to implement restorative practices in their schools and building community building circle programs and doing that work. So, my work at the time was at this middle school where it had a lot of just toxic energy, rival gangs. And through restorative practices, I built a program with law enforcement to come in and really collectively heal the young boys at Hope, right? And some of the practitioners of restorative practices and media and my alma mater, Dominguez Hills, was like, yo, this is crazy. So could you be like part of this kind of campaign about how we could change the concept of education? And through this campaign and interviewing me, they took a picture and was like, yo, there it is. And next thing you know, they were like, oh, we're just going to put it in the magazines. And then next thing you know, the magazine was on the back of a bus, and then everywhere. It was everywhere. It was crazy. I walked up to school one day and the kids was like, I seen you. And I'm like, what? Because I didn't even know it was on a bus. And then next thing you know, we just start seeing it everywhere. It was crazy.
Yeah, and for those folks, I'm always wondering how you would handle this. When I'm talking to principals, I'm trying to talk about restorative practices, and they say we just don't have time. We don't have the time to put these kids on. So we don't have the time. What is the big reply to that?
I always say this, schools and people in general, if it's a priority, you can measure it from two things: through time and through how your money is spent, right? Like if I value relationships, like if I value my wife, right? I value my wife and I say I love her, like you're gonna show it through time. You're gonna show it through like some money spent, right? So in education, the same thing, right? In the classroom, if you value that math teacher that values the standard, they don't never have to ask if they have time. They automatically goes to it. Well, if you value relationships, if you say like relationships matter, you hear the slogans all the time. Relationships matter. Start with relationships. Then why do you come back and say I don't have time for it if you truly value it? Or why do you come back and say like we don't have money to allocate to it? So I would say, and if you want to see and look at our school, we prioritize relationships, and it has yielded us currently a 100% graduation rate right now. Like it's valuable, right? It's essential. It is critical for just absolute excellence when it comes to young people, in my honest opinion.
Yeah. And I've always said that, we spend a lot of time talking about perseverance and grit, and that's cool and all. But if there is an adult that the kid is connected to, an adult that the kid knows loves them and believes in them, that is what's going to raise graduation rates every time.
Absolutely. Because like, for example, I sit at the principal seat. I believe that with my teachers, we call it humane oriented teaching. Like, and I'm a humane oriented leader, right? So I love my teachers, and our love is defined as learning off village energy. So L is learning, O off village energy. So we want to create an energy that you feel, right? You feel the love, and that's through relationships. That's through building a sense of belonging. And when you do all those, that's being trauma informed, understanding all those concepts, man, you will see students do amazing things, and teachers do amazing things when they feel value and love.
Yeah. Hey, for you and your school, what is the tell me about the typical kid that goes to your school, their surroundings, their neighborhood, what they're growing up with.
Man, my young people, we're called the change agents. So for those who don't know, our mascot is called the change agents. And my typical student currently right now, I mean, the reality is that my school is in Watts, right? If you're familiar in Watts, California, it has some challenges, right? It has some challenges for sure, but we believe in our community that we are the change that we want to see. We want to create an environment where our young people can excel. So my young students, yes, they have to overcome, gangs. Yes, they got to overcome, drugs. They got to overcome all these different things to just get to a place where they can accept learning and have critical hope. Right. So we like to believe that our school is the happiest place in Watts, like Disneyland. We the happiest place. When kids walk in, we want them to feel like they're in Disneyland, and then in return, they go back and make their community Disneyland. So that's the typical thing for our young people coming from Compton and Watts.
Man, are you from the area? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I'm born and raised from Compton. You see it on my hat. Like this ain't no like, oh, I came from somewhere else and like let me love. No, I'm born and raised from the city. My father is from from the city. My family still live in the city. So opening up a school in Watts, that's Watts. And for those who don't know or for not familiar with California, you got Compton and you got Watts, and they're sister cities. We call it the hub and the dub, right? And the hub city is Compton and the dub is Watts. So it's connected, and for my young people, they feel it. They know that they got a principal that walked the same path as them, that have dealt with the same struggles as them. So, but I'm also teaching them how to navigate and how to love and how to be empowered so they can reach their dreams,
Yeah. At what point, when you were growing up, was this something that was always on your mind? At what point did you think, man, I'm this school thing, like this might be the thing for me. I might be an educator. I might be a teacher. I might be a school leader. Where were you in your life when you started having those thoughts?
Man, if you ask like my mom, she would say that I was born to do this, right? I fought it for a lot of time, like a long time. My father was an educator. I come from a family of educators. So, but I'm the youngest of 6 kids, right? 5 out of the 6 are in education. As the youngest, I fought it. Like I want to be a rapper and I want to be a football player because let's be honest, teaching it wasn't the sexiest position. It wasn't just like, hey, I want to go into teaching. That's going to break us out and we can live in the big house and we can get out of Compton. Like that wasn't it. But I read this book called The Alchemist, and it changed my life, right? The story of Santiago finding his hidden treasure in life. One thing about me, although I want to be a rapper, football player, I always love to inspire people. I always love to motivate them. So I got a gig, actually. It was just a gig being a teacher assistant, and I just fell in love with my currency was seeing young people be inspired, seeing young people get a math problem, get young people become financially literate. Like, and then I just was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. Then I just wanted to be a teacher. And I was like, oh, I'm cool with that. And then I started to notice principals not really connect with kids. And I'm like, I didn't see happy principals. Like I was a teacher and I was like, every principal I have, they just seem disgruntled and upset. And I'm like, I think I could do that better than you. And that's what made me be inspired to become a principal.
Yeah. And so now, man, you're in the thick of it, and you're a school leader, and got people talking. And next thing I know, man, you got a book coming out. Tell me about this thing.
Yeah, so by being a founding principal, Al, it is one of the most rewarding positions any educator can have. And I'm sure, like, if you were able to say, like, hey, somebody said, hey, we're going to give you $4 million and work with you on a facility to start a school, you're going to get geeked up. You're going to be like, whoa, I could really put theory to practice, right? So that's what happened. Like I opened the school and we have some phenomenal things. And then my mission grew. Like my mission was to impact my community and people that look like me through education, getting them to their purpose and passion in life. But then I'm like, wait, man, I'm starting to connect with educators. And I'm like, I want you to have that same thing too. Right. And, as a practitioner, I was like, well, there's no better place than to put in the book. And hopefully this book could do something what The Alchemist did for me, for that one educator.
What's the name of the book?
Revolutionary School Culture, the 6 Principles of Unlocking Your School's Hidden Treasure. And it's made for aspiring leaders, current principals, district leaders, and educators who just can apply these 6 principles to any aspect of education, and they can see immediate results.
You know what I love about that is I think you're right. Like, first of all, that's what makes effective schools. It always comes down to culture. I mean, culture is everything. But I think what, sometimes a lot of teachers, if they don't have the information or they just have never seen it done, you can create amazing culture in an amazing classroom that might not be in the most effective school. Like that's the one thing that I know for sure is kids can cross the threshold of the door into that classroom, and that magical space that can reside inside of a little bit of toxicity outside of your room. But what you do in that room can be amazing.
Absolutely, man. Culture is what you do, is what you feel. It is so much in the DNA of a school, right? And DNA of a classroom. And that's why it's important. That's why the book was like, I have not yet, and I've visited many schools, I'm sure you have too. I've not visited a school that was a great school, but had a horrible culture, right? Like you can have some whatever, but it was just toxic, right? And I think the best schools have the ability to create a culture where everyone is seen, everyone is heard, and everybody feels like somebody. Right. Yeah. Like that is the importance of having a revolutionary school culture where you can have 3,000 kids and you as a principal, you may not know everyone, but every kid feels like there's somebody. That's the uniqueness of culture.
Man, I think for me, the big shift happens where it goes from this great school to, I'm talking off the charts, in the stratosphere type of school is when it makes that shift from we have a school leader that believes in culture and everybody feels important and feels a part of it. But the next step is when everybody on that campus becomes convinced that I'm solely in charge of culture on this school. So the principal believes it, every teacher, the school secretary, the custodian believes it. I'm the one in charge of school culture. It's up to me and only me. Once everybody believes it, man, that's when magical places are created.
That is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And like The Alchemist, the journey to that, right? Like that should be the destination, and everything else should be working towards that. And that's the love, man. That honestly, that is what I feel. I wake up. Does this work hard? Absolutely. But one thing that I have the privilege of is opening up a school, having great educators, that it doesn't feel like work. It feels like the right work, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're doing something you love and you are with a group of educators and you're able to see the magic happens. Oh man, that's where it's at.
Making that shift from, having a job to being a part of a mission. When
Yeah,
when you're on a part of a mission, and like you said, that's why I love the word revolutionary educator, because like if somebody's called you on the phone and said, "Hey man, I got a job. Are you interested?" Maybe, maybe not. But if they said, "Hey man, I'm about to start a revolution. You want in?" Yeah, I want in. I,
yeah, yeah,
I don't even
yeah.
know what I'm gonna go.
Yeah, you want to go because I think especially during this time, right? You have like what's being a revolutionary educator in the many times in a virtual environment, and the right work is important, right? And nobody had a blueprint on this.
No.
Nobody had a blueprint. Nobody. There's no principal that in their right mind could say, "Hey, I have a rubric on what I should evaluate teachers on during this time." And if so, that you are putting yourself at a position where you have not felt it. You have never felt being a teacher during this time. So we must lead with empathy. We must lead with grace. And our teachers will then teach with empathy and teach with grace. Right. And I think like those things are important, man. And I think when you have a village that is invested, like you say, how could you lose? How can
Yeah.
you lose if you have an invested village on a mission? So there is no failure in that. There's no
Yeah.
failure.
I've heard a lot of, principals that you're just struggling to how to bring teachers together. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, what were you doing before this went down? Like, what?
Yes,
Because
yes,
the ones that I know that have their teachers together and they're still part of the family and they're still loving it and they're still virtual school. Well, the reason they're great is because they were great. They were great in February of last year, but
yep.
that's why they're great in February of this year. But even that said, man, what from those schools that you see and those that you work with and counsel with, and who do you see doing great things virtually online? How are they doing that?
Yeah, you said something that was really important. People were doing it before,
Yeah.
right? And if you weren't, but like if you weren't doing the work before, right? You weren't planting those seeds before. I doubt that you're trying to plant those seeds now, right? Like that educator who did not care about reading, the same analogy. Those people that said we didn't have time for restorative practices, we didn't have time for trauma informed practices. We're doing double block reading and double block math. Now they're trying to pivot right now because they see the value of relationships, they see the value of trauma, and they're struggling because they weren't about that life before.
Yeah.
Right. So now they're trying to figure out how do we truly value relationships, because we know that students are not showing up because they don't feel connected. Students are not, wanting because they don't feel the love. Right. And now you're trying to show love, and it's coming from a place where it's like, kids can read real energy. Nobody wants fake love. Right? They want love that's genuine. So that's why it's so important for practitioners like me that believe in restorative practices, that believe in trauma informed practices, that believe in love, that we did it before. So educators that really truly believe in authentic relationships, kids feel it. So you see a different, they're having a different experience. Is it? And when I say different, I want to say it's different. And I'm saying that it's equal, but you're seeing a little bit more of a ascension, right? It's still a roller coaster, but you're seeing it like it's ascension, almost like the way the stock market going up, right? But it's the ascension of relationships being built upon versus trying to figure it out, where a lot of people are like stagnated and they're just trying to build. They're trying to build a foundation in which they never had.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it, man. That's exactly what I see oftentimes. When I work with school leaders and they're telling me about, how their teachers are miserable. And I can understand it, but I'm also thinking, man, they were miserable before. They just didn't tell you. Like now,
Yeah.
now they need you to know. And that I think that's why I'm so excited about this conference. I mean, with all that you have going on, as if it wasn't enough, you're thinking, man, I'm just going to have a worldwide online conference. Let me just do that. So So the Revolutionary Educator Conference, you decided to launch this thing, and tell me what was the seed that was planted in your mind to get this thing
Yeah,
going?
man, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was January 2nd. January 2nd. My wife and I, we on like a mini staycation. And so a couple of educators talked to me. They were talking about, how can we do this trauma informed practices, restorative practices, and have some collective healing? Because with the climate of our country, with all these different, it's just a lot of argumentative things that were just happening, not only within education, but just overall. And like, I don't want to hide behind the fact that I'm a black man, right? And I represent 2% of black male educators. However, I have I have the luxury to build really some great relationships with educators like you, Todd, Adam DeVico, Hope Wade, the Proud Principal, like all these different educators who are white, black, whatever the Rainbow Coalition instead of the Fresh Out to Fred Hampton to come together to have collective conversation, collective dialogue, to have collective healing. So our classrooms will no longer be divided, but they can be together, right? And our like schools can no longer be divided, and districts can no longer be divided, but we collectively heal so we can continue this work of being revolutionary. Of like, why is there like people saying like we don't want to value restorative practices, like we don't have time for it? No, we need to figure out how to make time for it, right? Because like my father said, there is no cure better than prevention, right? The best cure to a disease is prevention.
Yeah.
Like so if prevention is cool, the best cure to trauma is having a great relationship. The best cure to liberation is having a great relationship. So we must build those type of things and have dialogue collectively, not just in the black community, not just in the white community, not just in the Latinx community, but collectively have this dialogue in a collective community. So that's what launched it. And that now we're here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll tell you what I'm excited about is, this is one of those topics where it's so many of the conferences I've been to and spoken at, it's almost everyone's walking on eggshells and afraid to talk and really dig into the work and get out. And what I love about your style and your lineup in this conference, I know all those people, not only are they informed, but they have no problem talking about the real issues. And they're not walking on eggshells, and they can dig right into the heart of it.
Yes, yes, and that's what's important, right? Because we're going to be talking about how to the ten things every school and district should do for preparing for the great return, right? Like the 10 things you should do. Also, we'll be talking about like what are the best practices for doing like restorative practices work virtually. We're going to be talking about like the new era of education through hybrid, right? Many of us going to do this hybrid model. We're talking about like how to, it's just so much, man. It's crazy. So yeah, no, but that's really what it's about. And I'm just so honored to have, those people that want to tap in and believe in what
Yeah.
we're doing.
I think, that people are really worried that we're going to go back and it's going to be exactly like we left off. They're worried that it's going to be that way, and some are worried that it's not going to be that way. And I think this is such a great time to really take a look at everything we do and say,
Yeah.
is that really, was that the best way for kids? And was that the best way for teachers? And was that the best way for the community? I mean, there's never a better time than right now. And then also keeping in mind, not just the trauma that lots of kids and teachers and family, everybody now at this point is related to someone who
Yep.
has really suffered during this time. And it's just, I mean, when I say the one place we have the next generation is in our classrooms. The leaders of tomorrow are in our classrooms today. And
Yes.
this is where we can teach and they can grow and we can love them.
Exactly. And there is no better way for us to all be inspired to do this work, because this work is hard, especially during a global pandemic, right? Especially thinking that when we return that, you know, to hold on to the hope of thinking of that it's going to go back to what it used to be.
Yeah.
Like it's not, right? Like it's not. And I think like we elevate, we inspire, and we create and the reality, how we shouldn't be going back to what it was before, right, because what it was before, because many people would say like there was inequities that existed. So what are we
Right.
doing now to rebuild while also, let's think of it like a house renovation, right? Like you want to renovate this house and make it the best. You want you had a chance to redo your kitchen. Let's redo it with the nice sink, with the French big refrigerator, the Sub Zero, like you want to, if you had a chance to renovate your house, like, and you had unlimited resources, how would you rebuild it? And that's the time for us to come together, and this could be the launch. And it's a
Right.
2-day conference, like, because it was so jam packed that we couldn't fit it all in one day. It's like literally 2 days, and it's going to be phenomenal.
Man, I'll tell you, just as talking about the inequities, and that's the part when I look at the lineup, that's the part that excites me because, like I said, man, those people that can dig in there and get to the truth and to the heart of the matter. And you're right, for those of us, not us, but for those who want to return exactly like it was, that my question always is, was that might have been working for you, but it wasn't working for everybody. And
Yep.
you're right, like you said, 2% of teachers are black men, and so we for sure know it's not working for everybody. And so I always tell people is if you look at the numbers, and this is Bill Gates's research, as far as I know, he's the only one really digging in this for suburban and metropolitan school districts. If you look at how many kids we have in kindergarten versus how many graduating seniors we have, and every year we have twice as many kids in kindergarten. Now we're not reproducing that fast as a population.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and so it's really 50% of kids from when they hit the starting line in K that cross the finish line after their senior. It's about 50%. So when we're talking about the top 10% of kids, it's not really the top 10% of the class. It's the top 5 because we're at half.
Yep.
We're missing half the kids. And we're
Yep.
talking about the top 25%. It's not really, it's the top 12.5% because we're missing half of the kids didn't make it to the finish line. And
Yep.
so when we go back, I really hope that we can do this thing in such a way that it creates opportunities, not just for the people that had opportunities before, but for everybody.
No, man, and that is what it should be about, right? And that's why we should have these dialogues. That's why we should have these sessions, these breakout sessions, to have these critical conversations, not only micro in the classroom, school, district, county, state, right? Because these are things that are really happening, right? Educators need, like, we are the influencers, right? Like educators are we influence so much when it comes to legislation, when it comes to communities, when it comes to industry, when it comes to so much, that we have to collectively be able to have these dialogues and conversations to empower and to elevate our young people to be the leaders. Because you listen, now we're not gonna be here forever, right? Like, who are going to be the next generation that comes to continue the work of this? This is a beautiful profession, man. Like it is so beautiful because there's no other profession where we can unlock the world to kids. Name another profession that unlocks the world to kids. We are that. So it's fun. I'm just excited, man. I'm just super excited.
Yeah, I love it, man. I can't wait. I appreciate you putting this thing together, and it's inspiring and it's awesome, and I love that the education world has you in it, man. And also, man, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. It's been amazing. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you, the platform, the work you're doing, and for your group, Men in Education, all the things that you're doing, man. You talking about me, man. I'm looking at you like, man, I got to get up and get at it because you're working, man. I see you just making an impact in the marathon that you're on, man. Just honored to call you a friend during this time virtually, and just thank you for your support through my journey as well, man.
Absolutely. And everybody, revolutionaryeducator.com is where you go, and it's affordable, it's awesome, it's powerful, and I hope to see you guys there. Thanks again, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right now.